And we're back, ladies and gentlemen. I wasn't expecting to have to do another one of these, but here we are. As we said in class, we have a snow day for at least one day, and we can't exactly afford to just toss a day out the window, so here we are on the lovely internets to teach you a little bit more about government. Now, remember, you're going to want to make sure you watch these videos ahead of your test on Monday and Tuesday of next week. Also, you want to read Clued In, sections 9.1, 9.3, 9.4. I think that's correct off the top of my head. Whatever I said in class is correct. Let's go with 9.1, 9.3, 9.4, and someone prove me wrong otherwise. In any case, make sure you do all of that because, again, your test is on Monday and Tuesday. So take out notebooks or whatever it is you're taking notes with. As we pick up then at Roman numeral 4 under jurisdiction, we're talking about resolving disputes. And to help us learn today, I brought along a special friend. No, not one of my daughters who would have been infinitely more helpful and cuter. I brought along a special friend. That's right. It's time for Jeffrey, the government duck. Hey everybody! I've come to learn all about government with you today. Also, not because Mr. Smith has had a psychotic breakdown and is enjoying this way too much. So, where do we pick up today? We're talking about resolving disputes. So, between jurisdictions. Woo! Sounds like fun! Be quiet. Now then, we're talking about how do you resolve disputes between jurisdictions. So there's multiple courts that could actually have jurisdiction on this case, but which court gets jurisdiction? Like, let's say, for example, someone steals a car in Virginia, speeds through North Carolina, and then robs a bank in South Carolina. That's 3 different crimes, all of whom could potentially put a person on trial. Now, what are we going to do with that person? Well, the things that we look at when it comes to resolving disputes, first of all, is who has the more serious claim. So in that case, stealing a car, speeding, or robbing a bank. Which of those is going to be the most, serious crime? I know the answer! It would be robbing the bank. That would be considered to be a large felony, whereas Grand Theft Auto and speeding are not nearly as bad as robbing a bank. That's right. So the correct answer in this case would be whoever's got the most serious claim. So in that scenario, it'd be South Carolina. Good duck, you got that right. Yay! Other things we're looking for is which state has the most evidence. So, for example, if South Carolina has... Whoops, I think we lost the video there. Did you do that? No, not me. So, we're also looking at which state has the most evidence. So, for example, South Carolina may have the biggest claim when it comes to who's actually, the seriousness of the crime. But if they don't have enough evidence for their crime, they might kick it over to somebody else who has more evidence, is much more likely to get not confession. What's the word I'm looking for? Conviction, that's the word. So that's the next thing they're looking for. And finally, you've got another thing they're looking for is essentially who's got the punishment. So let's say, for example, Virginia is looking at you for a murder and there's a death penalty involved, then the other cases are kind of irrelevant because, let's face it, if you get the death penalty, they're not going to give you the death penalty plus 20 years. That's kind of pointless because you can't just take an electrocuted body and shove them in jail. Yeah, that's not really the thing that we do, at least not that I'm aware of. Okay, so let's talk about the dual court system by talking about the state courts versus the federal courts. So we start at the state court level. Those are the courts that are run by the states! Yay! That's right. The state courts are the ones that are run by the states and are found at the state level, as opposed to the federal courts, which are run by the national government. So let's start with the state courts and the trial courts. The trial courts are the original jurisdiction at the state level. So, again, saying that again, state courts are the original jurisdiction at the state level. So this would be like the Cumberland County Courthouse downtown is a trial court. It has original jurisdiction for any crimes that happen within Cumberland County, which of course is part of North Carolina, so it makes it a state court. Not my point. If a case leaves the trial court and there needs to be an appeal, they would go to the appeals courts. In North Carolina, there is the North Carolina Court of Appeals, and there's the North Carolina Supreme Court. And then from the North Carolina Supreme Court, it would go to the U.S. Supreme Court. So it did it again. I don't know why it keeps blinking out like that. I'm blaming you for that one, Duck. In any case, so it starts off at the North Carolina trial court, and then it goes to the North Carolina Court of Appeals, the North Carolina Supreme Court, and if it still needs to go further, it goes to the U.S. Supreme Court. And that's the state court level. At the federal court level, you start off in a district court. The way the district courts work is that each state has multiple district courts. For example, in North Carolina, we are divided up into 3 different districts, essentially west, central, and east. So 3 different district courts can be found throughout the entire state. And the original jurisdiction is the district court. So if the U.S. government wanted to put you on trial, they would start you off in one of the district courts. If you don't like the outcome from the district court, you would then go to the appellate court, which is the U.S. Court of Appeals. Duck, what are you doing? Duck, you're falling asleep and we need to learn more government. Wake up. Wake up! There we go. The U.S. Court of Appeals, there are, off the top of my head, I want to say 12 of them. They encompass multiple states. So if you're going to appeal a case from the district court, it's going to go to the U.S. Court of Appeals first, and then it goes up to the U.S. Supreme Court from there. Either way, the court of last resort, or the final authority, is always going to be the U.S. Supreme Court, no matter what. That's right, Duck. Good job. Now, under judicial selection, the idea here is that who gets to be a judge or a justice depends upon the state or the federal level. Federal justices, like at the Court of Appeals and so forth, are selected by the president and approved by Congress. On the state court level, it's slightly different. State courts depends on the state. In some states, they are selected by the governor. In other states, they're elected. North Carolina uses an election-based system. They both have their benefits and their drawbacks. If you appoint a justice, the good news is that they are not beheld to the public. The logic being that, of course, the public doesn't know what the Constitution is all the time, so you want a justice who actually follows the law, not necessarily what the public wants. But on the other hand, that's a double-edged sword, because on the other hand, if you get a justice who just blatantly violates the law or the Constitution, there's no way for them to be removed either. They don't have to worry about facing re-election. So, again, it could go either way. It's sort of be a double-edged sword of some sort. Get out of the way of the camera, Duck. All right, with that, I think that's about it for this Roman numeral. We're going to continue on with Roman numeral 5, which is all about the Supreme Court in just a few moments. Get out of the way.